Hello everyone and welcome to the webinar. My name is Chase Douglas. I'm the event coordinator here at Eco Canada and I'm going to get things started for you. So let's do the traditional land acknowledgement. Eco Canada and myself would like to recognize today and every day the land we are on. Eco Canada is committed to reconciliation starts with acknowledging our honor and privilege to live and work within this Indigenous territory. Eco Canada acknowledges the traditional territories and the oral practices of these nations. So some housekeeping. All participants are muted during the presentation. For any technical issues, use the question box and select Eco Canada. This webinar will be recorded and sent out to everyone within 24 hours, and any questions can be submitted through the chat question box function. So who is Eco Canada? A little bit about ourselves. Eco Canada is the steward of the Canadian environmental workforce across all industries. We champion end-to-end career of environmental professional. We not only train certified professionals, but we also help identify labor market gaps. Our efforts promote, drive responsible, sustainable economic growth to ensure that the environmental care and best practices is a priority. So now hand it over to Marsha. Marsha, take it away.
Thanks, Chase, for the introduction. So obviously you are all here today to learn about activating our employment programs for your organization or career. So through our wage funding programs, we've facilitated connections between environmental organizations and early career professionals for more than 2 decades. This enables us to foster invaluable work experience and crucial skills for those early career professionals. Our focus is to ensure that our employment programs bolster the Canadian workforce in the environmental sectors, and the worth of the programs is really rooted in our pledge to advocate for the comprehensive career trajectory of Canadian environmental workers. Benefits really permeate to educators, students, new entrants, environmental professionals, and employers nationwide. And a little bit more about those benefits for employers. It can help you increase your work capacity, access talented youth with new ideas and skills, increase employee retention, reduce staff training costs, strengthen overall business operations, and support the growth of new qualified environmental workers. Next slide. So we'll go over a little bit about the programs that we're offering this year at Eco Canada, starting off with one of the more popular ones here, our Student Work Placement Program, also known as a co-op. Our co-op program partners with post-secondary institutions and aims to help students find work placements within their field of study. It'll help fund up to 50% of the salary up to a maximum of $5,000. Placements in the Student Work Placement Program should be focused on STEAM and business sectors, and they can be anywhere from 6 to 16 weeks. Within that 6 to 16 weeks, the students do need to work a minimum of 180 hours. So it can accommodate part-time to full-time depending on the length of placement that you're offering. Students don't need to be a part of their post-secondary program to qualify for ECO's co-op funding. So if they're not fully officially engaged with that co-op program at their university or they don't have it, they're still eligible to participate in ours. They do need to be actively enrolled in a Canadian post-secondary institution, and there is no age limit as long as they are a current student. There's no training funds available in the Student Work Placement Program just because they're students and their current education that they're studying for is considered a training that they're working towards. For candidates, they do need to be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or have refugee status to be eligible, be legally able to work in Canada, and the placement must align or benefit with the candidate's education as well. For employers, to be eligible, you must be a Canadian-owned or a Canadian subsidiary, and this program is open to businesses of all sizes. The only exception is that municipalities, governments, and post-secondary institutions are not eligible for this program. Next up is one of our full-time programs, the Youth and Natural Resources. This program helps train and fund youth looking to transition into or gain experience within the natural resource field. So natural resource sectors that qualify would include the energy sector, forest sector, mining, minerals, and metals, as well as the earth science and support sector. This program covers 75% of the salary up to $20,000, or there's the potential for a top up to $30,000 if your candidate is equity deserving. For placement details, we're looking for STEM-related jobs within the natural resource sector. Placements can be anywhere from 3 to 12 months long, and it does need to be a full-time position for a new employee. Training funds are additional to the funding, so there's an additional $4,000 coverage, and it'll be 75% of that training or upskill costs are covered under that $4,000. And candidate eligibility, kind of the same thing as the rest of the programs here: Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or refugee status, be legally able to work in Canada. And this full-time program does require the candidates to be aged 30 and under. It is open to organizations of all sizes, as long as they are Canadian owned or a Canadian subsidiary. Next up is our Digital Skills for Youth program. This is another full-time program for post-secondary graduates. And the Digital Skills for Youth program provides training for young professionals with post-secondary education who want to gain experience or join the environmental digital skills sector. The focus is for not-for-profits on this program. So we will fund 80% up to $18,000 of the salary, and there is that potential for a top-up up to $25,000 for not-for-profit organizations. Placements can be anywhere from 3 to 12 months long. It does need to be a full-time position for a new employee, and the position must have a really strong focus on digital skill development. For training, there is 80% coverage for upskilling and training costs up to a maximum of $4,000 per participant. This is a part of that maximum subsidy for the wage subsidy as well. So, for example, if you're using any of your training funds, it does come out of that max $18,000. And for candidate eligibility, they must be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or have refugee status, be legally able to work in Canada, and they must be under the age of 30 and have completed a post-secondary program. Diplomas and certificates are eligible as long as they are a minimum of 2 years in length. For employers, you must be Canadian owned or a Canadian subsidiary. And then we're focusing on small to medium-sized organizations here. So I believe medium would be under 400 employees. And the last program that we're offering this year is the Science Horizons Youth Internship, which provides training and funding for young professionals with post-secondary education to transition to or gain experience in the environmental sector, focusing on STEM. So this program will fund up to 80% of the wages, up to a maximum of $25,000. Positions do need to be an environmental STEM position, and placements can be anywhere from 6 to 12 months. They do need to be full-time and for a new employee. So some key points here is that this program is really helping participants build a network of peers and mentors there. And for employers, it gives them the opportunity to onboard young professionals in the STEM field and create meaningful environmental jobs for them. Training funds are 80% coverage for upskilling and training costs, as well as wraparound supports in this program, up to a maximum of $5,000 per participant. And for candidates to be eligible, they need to be Canadian citizens, permanent residents, or have refugee status, legally able to work in Canada, must be aged 30 or under, and have a post-secondary education of a minimum of 2 years there as well. And then employers can be a business of any size, and then just be Canadian owned or a Canadian subsidiary. So as we've discussed, training funds are available to you in some of these programs here. Eco Canada does offer some training opportunities and programs to help you with that. And Eco Canada courses are pre-approved under all of our programs. So we offer a variety of trainings such as online courses in project management, essential skills, technical writing, and much more. We also have over 50 plus webinars available on a range of environmental topics. And these are a bit shorter trainings that take a deep dive on new trends and topics from environmental experts. We also host workshops a few times a year in grant writing and report writing, which are more in-person sessions with instructors to give you an opportunity to hone in on those skills for your career. And these training funds are a first come, first serve for each program as well. So just keep that in mind. If you do participate in a placement, it's best to utilize those training funds early on, as they may run out a little closer to the end of the program. So now that you know a bit about our programs and what might serve you best in your organization and your career, we're going to go over the application process a little bit. So we do have 2 separate platforms currently while we're in the midst of transitioning, and we do understand that these can be a little bit confusing, and so we appreciate your patience with us while you go through our applications. These ones just kind of go over on the screen here, the platforms that you'll be using. So if you're going to apply for any of our full-time programs, which is Science Horizons, Youth and Natural Resources, Digital Skills, and any that might open up in the future, you will be applying through SurveyMonkey Apply. So the link is right there. It's eco.smapply.ca. And that top laptop there on the screen is what that portal is going to look like when you're logging in. And then if you are applying for our student work placement program, you'll go through our website directly, the eco portal, which is eco.ca/signin.aspx, but all of the application links are accessible directly on the program pages on our website. So I find that's always the easiest way to access that application, is go to the program page on the website and hit apply as a participant or apply as an employer, whichever applies to you. And another tip is that if you are like a host organization or an intern in a placement and you'll be accessing this platform regularly, I recommend bookmarking the pages so you don't forget which portal to use, and then you know which one you'll be accessing more or less. So our application process moves fairly quickly here. We ask for 10 business days for review once you do submit an application. And after the 10 business days, if you haven't heard back by then, you're free to follow up with us and we will connect you with your coordinator. If you do receive a status update, there's a couple that you might receive. Pre-approved means that you are approved for that funding. Pending is that we'll need more information from you, and in the email for that pending status, you would have received a note of what information we do require and where to send that information to, whether that be to your coordinator directly or to our general admin team. And if it is declined, then you will receive an email that does provide you with a reason for why it was declined, and you're free to follow up if you need any more information on that decision. Pre-approval is only valid for 30 days, so you do need to confirm the name and the start date of your candidate within 30 days. Even if their information is on your application, we ask that you still send that confirmation email, just because some things change and we want to make sure that we're matching your application with the right candidate that you hired. So once you confirm your candidate within 30 days, we will send the contracts out to you and match your placement. Your funding isn't confirmed until your contracts are fully completed. So you do want to make sure that the host and intern are both signing those agreements through DocuSign within 15 days. After the agreements are completed, then congratulations, your match is complete and you have confirmed your funding. Once you have a placement match, we'll invite you to an onboarding session where my colleague Karen and I will go through a little bit deeper the requirements of the placement and how to successfully complete that. And a little overview of those requirements that you'll learn a little bit more about in an onboarding session is some responsibilities as a host are to complete the contracts by DocuSign within the deadline and complete 1 to 4 reports throughout the placement depending on the length. So that 1 to 4 will just go up depending on the length of the placement. Hosts, when you are completing a report, that's where you will submit your pay verification, which is what we base our reimbursements off of. And then any monitoring calls or site visits you'll be required to participate in. Sometimes our coordinators will travel out to your area and we'll come visit you guys in your office or on your site, if possible, just to kind of see what you guys are up to and check out the work that the intern's working on. We might also just give you guys a call for a little bit more of a quicker chat to check up on the placement. And we ask that you just cooperate with coordinators for any follow-up that's needed. And the responsibilities of a participant in a placement are very similar. Complete the contracts via DocuSign by the deadline. complete your intern reports between 1 to 4 of those by the deadline as well, and then participate in any monitoring calls or site visits and follow-up that's needed. So that is it. I want to thank you all for your interest in our employment programs, and I hope this webinar was helpful in showing you which programs might be best for you for your organization or your career while you're starting out here, and to show you the other services that Eco Canada might be able to provide and support you with throughout that placement. If you do have any specific program questions that you might think of after this webinar, definitely feel free to email our team. Our email is on the screen there, pathways@eco.ca. You can reach us for any questions you have, whether that be about a specific placement or any general questions. If you need help with any of the application processes, then definitely reach out to us via that email or our phone number as well. We're happy to help. And I believe we'll be taking questions now facilitated through Chase, so I'll just pass it back to him.
Hey, Manisha. So first question here is, can you define a STEM position?
Yeah, so a STEM position is anything that falls under science, technology, engineering, or math. So a really great example of this is engineering is obviously a really strong STEM position. It focuses on science, tech, engineering, and math all in one. Some other STEM positions can be like science-based, so lab technicians, field technicians, anybody who's really utilizing those science, tech, engineering, or math skills.
Awesome. Next question here. We received funding for a student in 1 year, say this summer. Can we still receive funding for another program in the future for the same student? Example would be that this particular student is now being offered a placement full-time position after they graduate.
Yeah, so if you did have a student working for you and they were in our co-op program, or maybe another co-op program with you before, that is the only exception to our new employee rule. So if they were a student working in a co-op last summer and now you're offering them a full-time position, we can do one full-time program for them. If they've already participated in a full-time program, such as in the past, we've had part-time programs like environmental employability pathways or any of those full-time programs, then unfortunately they would not be eligible any further. But again, if they are a student and just going into that full-time role, then they definitely should be. And you can always confirm their eligibility with us prior to submitting an application for them as well.
Awesome. Another question here from a couple of people is, can you go over the programs available for people that are 30 and above?
Yeah, so sometimes we do have programs available for those candidates that are 30 and above. Currently, we don't. So the programs for Science Horizons, Digital Skills, and Youth and Natural Resources do require them to be youth under 30. But I would definitely keep your eye open. We get new programs every year and they're always changing. Sometimes programs open up a little bit later in the year. And so there's definitely a possibility that we might have programs open up just a little bit later this year for those candidates that are over the age of 30. However, if they are over 30 and still engaged in post-secondary school, then they're eligible for that student work placement program.
Another question here. I've been pre-approved for youth and natural resources and got accepted to a job. What are my next steps, or how do I get my employer to activate my funding? Like, if you could give me a step-by-step, thank you.
Yeah, of course. The steps that you'll want to take now is obviously letting them know that you are pre-approved for this funding, and then you'll want to send them to complete a host application. So right where you found that participant application on our website, under the Youth and Natural Resources, you'll see apply as a host and apply as a candidate. So you can just send them that website link and let them know that they need to apply as a host. Once they complete that application and you wait that 10 business days, you can follow up after that if you haven't heard back. If they do receive approval, then that's when they'll follow those application steps of confirming your name and start date within the 30 days. But your next step as a candidate really is just to ask them to complete that host application for you.
What about employers who want to continue to learn new skills?
Yeah, so for employers who want to learn new skills or employees, Definitely, I would recommend first checking out the Eco Canada courses for that. We have the Essential Skills 200, which is a larger course. It's self-directed, so you can work on it whenever it works for you, whether that be at work or in your free time. You can take as long as you need to complete the course as well. And it goes over all of the essential skills in an environmental career, which would be like communication, technical writing, anywhere from those soft skills to those more technical skills. We go over all of those essential ones. So I definitely recommend checking those out. There's two different courses. So one that's a little bit more of an overview, and then another one that builds a little deeper on those skills. We also have webinars, and so those webinars are really great for just brushing up on quick skills like communication. I believe there's a couple of writing webinars as well. So I definitely recommend checking those out. And then if you are engaged in a placement, then you can always work with your host to identify more of those external courses, which can always be completed through post-secondary institutions or other training institutions as well. But I would say definitely check out our courses first while you're doing some research there.
Some jobs seem a bit weird. I had a demand for an interview, but can't verify the company name. Nowhere to be found. Is it verified by Eco Canada Job Board?
Yeah, so any position that you do see on our job board is verified. We work with those hosts and it's kind of vetted before they upload all of their things on there. So those would be verified positions. But if you're looking at external job boards and stuff like that, then we wouldn't be able to verify whether or not that is a true company. If you are feeling a little skeptical about them, you can always look up business numbers online and that will let you know if it's verified. But I recommend if you're getting like uncomfortable vibes from them from the get-go, I would just recommend looking at a different organization. You definitely want to feel comfortable about the place that you're starting your career at, and you want to make sure that it's somewhere where you can grow and where they're going to invest in your growth as well.
Awesome. I think that's it, Marsha. Thank you very much for this awesome webinar. And if anyone has any more questions, please follow up with the email there. Thanks, everyone, and please join us for our upcoming webinars. Thanks.